Hi and welcome for another episode of Being Da podcast, hosted by myself, Joseph, and my friend here, Doug. Brought to you by Homestart, Glasgow South.
So today, Joe, we have guests who are going to be speaking to us about the difficult subject of the loss of a baby, whether it be during pregnancy or after. In a minute or two, they'll introduce themselves, but we just want to first of all say that you've clicked on this podcast because you want to hear about baby loss, and maybe you have experienced it, maybe your partner's experienced it. And in the description below, we're going to have some links for you to follow if you would like some support, because this is ultimately the goal of what we do, is to connect with people who require support, whatever that support may be. With today's topic being something that people don't often speak about, we want you to feel supported, and if something in it says to you, right, I need to speak to someone, we want you to be able to get in contact with any number of people or organizations who could help you. So the discussion today is baby loss, and we have Bryan and Julie Morrison from Baby Loss Retreat. So welcome to the Being Da podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Hi there.
Great to have you guys. We're gonna first of all hear from you guys. What is the Baby Loss Retreat? How did it come about? And then we'll start delving into some of the things you do. But if you could tell us a little bit more about your organization and what it is you do.
I'll let Bryan talk from a man's point of view, obviously the experience of the loss.
Mm-hmm. We'll go why Baby Loss Retreat was started. 2002 we discovered we were pregnant. Well, Julie was pregnant. We were having our first child. So we just bought a house, nice wee house. We were doing all right, getting everything ready. No complications. Scans were really good. Then it was about March, April time in 2003. They started doing scans, and there was the growth wasn't very. There's 3 lines in your growth scan, and there's a bottom, middle, and a top, and it was just at the middle bit. But the more the weeks were going on, it was going underneath. So it was just going down to the bottom bit. So the consultant and the midwives were saying that it's okay, we'll just do weekly scans, we'll just keep an eye on the blood flow. And then it was July the 7th. The 6th it was. Julie was in the bath and there was no movement. So we knew we had a scan on the 7th, which was a Monday, so we just says, we'll just see how it goes with the scan on a Monday. Julie was trying all the different things, like splashing water to see if there was any movement. Then we went for the scan, and all I can describe, I've got a very vague description of what happened that day, because I don't know if it was just the trauma and everything that I had, that I've just got a mental block. But what I remember is the scan, the woman doing the scan, and it was a very delayed scan where normally they'd just do the blood flow and check and you see the heartbeat. It was just like a delayed reaction, and then she says, I just need to go and get a second opinion. At that point your body just drops. I'm looking at Julie's looking for me for answers. I can't give her answers, so she was panicking. At that point the consultant came in and he confirmed that there was no heartbeat. At that point we were taken away into a room. Now this is 2003 and it's a small room with a phone in it, and you're thinking, why is there a phone in here? So you start getting a wee bit confused and angry. Obviously when the midwife came in, who was a lovely midwife called Fiona, she explained everything, and she says, listen, there's a phone there if you need to phone your parents of what happened. So that was fine enough. Julie was distraught because her mum has stillborn as well, so she was upset about it. This is when it gets a bit vague. There's small bits we remember when we were leaving the hospital. We went into the lift and there was a woman with a baby, just newborn. So again, we are distraught. These 2 people are delighted that they've got their baby, so there was all that kind of trauma we had to deal with as well. Going home, to be honest with you, we were home for 2 or 3 days and I don't remember any of it. Julie's probably got a better recall of everything that happened in these 3 days. all I remember doing was lying in bed, crying. Julie was crying, and we had a room ready because Erin was 38 weeks. So there was a room full of prams, baby clothes, a cot.
Yeah.
So when I first went in, I just shut the door, and I don't think they looked at that for the first couple of weeks after that. So there's all that trauma, and then you're having to go back into the hospital because Julie had a tablet to induce the labour. So we went back in there. They were really lovely in the room. They were very kind to us, very nice. When Erin's born, it's one of those unreal moments you have, because when the female gives birth, the first thing you're looking for is the baby to cry. Now, I know all babies don't cry when they come out and they've got to go and do stuff, but there's that, it was just a silence. It was just a baby coming out, and then that silence. And you sit there and think, please, 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 just hope they've got it all wrong, but that's just your reaction to everything that's been around you.
Yeah.
So there was that awkward silence, and then the midwives, they did ask us if we wanted to hold the baby. I was very against it. Julian, the midwife at that time, says it'd be the best thing for you to do, so I did, and I'm thankful to this day that we did get to hold the baby. Then in 2003, you didn't have a lot of time because the baby deteriorates very, very quickly. Now they've got cuddle cots and all that, which keeps the baby. You can have more time with the baby. You can have
Take them home and stuff.
You can
like
take them
that.
home and
Yeah.
yeah.
So how long did you have with the baby?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
And who suggested
The midwife, because of deterioration of the baby, it's different when they're in a cuddle cot because it lets their skin look, obviously, the colour a wee bit longer.
Right.
But she just said, like, I wouldn't want you to see that at the end. It's better to see them the way they are just now rather than 20 minutes later and the colour's drained from them.
And the name, did you name the baby
Erin Morrison.
before?
Yeah.
Did you know the name before?
Yeah,
Yeah, because we knew it was a wee girl,
Yeah.
so
Did
we
you
got
know?
got told.
And she was 38 weeks?
Yeah.
So I think part of then with friends and family, I mean, sometimes there can be loss very early on in a pregnancy where you're not showing, you haven't told anyone, and there's not an obvious loss. For yourselves, that at 38 weeks, that's full term. It's a very obvious loss. Was it difficult in terms of your social group and family, because it's a very obvious thing? Was that hard at all for you guys? Was there support from them, or was it a difficult thing to discuss?
Not really. I think because my mum had already been through it, so she had a bit of understanding. I think more your mum, when we told your mum, she was really, really upset. Because she never experienced it. So you seen the difference from my mum to obviously Brian's mum. But honestly, they were so supportive, and they were there asking if we needed anything, and it was just more like afterwards. So once the funeral was over and done with, that's when it was kind of like everybody went back to normal, and it was kind of like, right, okay, Brian went back to work 2 weeks later, and I was left on my own, and it was kind of like then your brain starts playing games because you're thinking, right, I don't want to be here, I want to go with my girl, and like my friends, they went back to work and stuff like that, so you were constantly left on your own.
So you were on your own for a while then?
It's we don't blame them, it's just the culture of people. Because when you grieve, when you lose somebody that you've known, that's a natural process. You have the funeral, people think, are you okay? And then a couple of weeks it just drifts away. We were just talking about that. My mum died 3 years ago, sorry. You just start to forget. You don't forget them, but you just start to forget all that, what happened. And you just try to live your normal life, and that's just, we see
but
that.
I think it's different because like an adult's got a journey that they've been on, whereas a child hasn't, so you don't have the memories to go back onto. So your memory is the baby dying in your hands, whereas when your mum or your dad or grandparents or whatever die, you've got the good times to look to, whereas you haven't got that for a child. So when you remember it, it's always going to be holding that baby that's died. And I think that's how to try and process that. And that's why like we now make a journey for Erin. So like we, for our birthday, we'll like light off balloons, we'll do a walk in Erin's memory, we'll do stuff like that, so that we're building the memory Erin just now, so that we've got the Erin's death, but then we've also got these memories now, which we always encourage families to do.
Yeah,
definitely.
And in terms of the families you support, I'm thinking this is probably one of those things where we don't hear probably half of those who have suffered a loss. There are those who obviously seek support, they come out, we hear about them, you probably have the statistics and the figures, but like so many other things, there's probably a huge amount that we've not heard about. Couples are suffering in silence. So in terms of a year, how many families or couples would you
We've helped
support?
about 400 within 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And is
we've
that
helped
how
quite a
long the
lot.
charity's been running for?
5 years.
5 years.
The first
so
year
we're-
was just establishing
Yeah,
ourselves.
so it takes a wee while to build up that.
Yeah.
So about 400, but we help from as soon as that pregnancy test right up until the age of 3.
Okay.
Because we get a lot of cot deaths. Again, there is other charities out there, but not everybody's for the one charity, so we've got to be supporting each other.
Yeah.
If that family's not suitable for you, then it's about referring to other
Right.
charities that can offer support.
Yeah. And so you say from the first scan, so as soon as you know you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Right. So
Pregnancy test, so if it's 2 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, it's because everybody always comes to me and says, but then I feel bad because your loss was such and such, and I said, but a loss is a loss no matter what stage of pregnancy test. You've seen that pregnancy test, you're planning ahead, you're going, what am I getting for this baby, what am I doing for that? So
Is that for people taking the test, is that for people who have previously had maybe a miscarriage or a stillbirth? Is that why they would contact you, or would it be maybe first time?
No, first
just
time,
maybe
first
worried
time,
about
or
it.
maybe
First
second time that they've
Yeah.
obviously lost a baby or anything. It doesn't matter. If they've done that pregnancy test, they've had a loss, even if it's their first baby, second or third. Because it's hard as well for parents that have had maybe 2 babies and then they've had a miscarriage in the third one, because they're
Right.
not expecting to have that loss.
Yes.
So again, that's when they would come to us and get that support.
Is there, so we're often, so when a person experiences that, is there any sort of limit on, so if someone 10 years ago lost a child, is there any limit
No.
for you guys? No.
No.
So if it's
Always
historic
believe,
and even quite at some time.
Yeah, because that grief is like been holding on to them for so long, so they've never really had anywhere to process that. So we need to look at that and go, right, okay, it might not help as far as obviously improving the grief, but if we can help them to move on, and not move on, but to learn to deal with the grief and take it with them.
We helped a woman that was 80-year-old. She lost her baby 40 years ago.
Wow.
Now, during all that time, 40 years ago, you can imagine nobody talked about it. Nobody even seen the babies 40 years ago, the mums or the dads. So she went on with her life, she got other kids, then her other kids started moving away, and then her husband died. Then it just hit her like a ton of bricks, and she seeked to help through a social worker.
So they came to us and we got her a memory box,
Right.
so that she could put stuff in, and then obviously a bit of counselling to talk to somebody.
What was available when this happened to you? Was there any help, and is this what stirred on the idea of doing
Well,
this?
we were part of the Ashes scandal in Scotland, so that was about 8 years ago, was it?
Yeah, 7-8 years ago.
So basically when we had a cremation for Erin, and they turned around and told us that we wouldn't get any ashes because she was so small, so we went away, never thought anything of it, and then it was out on the news saying that it was a Morton Hall, and basically they were cremating babies with adults, and then obviously they were scattering ashes without their permission. So I went to the
horrendous.
lawyer who was dealing with it at the time, and I just said, listen, my little girl died. Never thought anything of it. I thought my little girl died, didn't get ashes, and they were like, right, come and do statements and stuff like that. So they took over it and they investigated it, and they found Erin's ashes sitting in funeral directors for 13 years. Without even, there wasn't a protocol to go through the ashes to contact the families, there was nothing. It was just like she was left in a cupboard, and we had to deal with that.
Wow.
So that's what made us really set this up, was because of the way we were treated in the hospital, and then this. It's different for just getting treated badly once, but to be then twice, it's kind of like, right, this is something that we really need to deal with, because there's a situation here, there's problems
Yeah.
that needs to be solved.
And of course, if that's a systemic issue,
Yeah.
there's how many hundreds of other families that have been impacted in the same way.
Well, there was 250 with us through a case, and they found 8 babies along with parents who they don't know who they belong to.
Right.
It's very sad.
So it's sad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
But going back to 2003, there was absolutely no support. We went to one support group and we lasted 10 minutes because they weren't here for us. We sat down and nobody asked us who we were, what happened.
What was your story or anything? Nothing.
And they were talking about fundraising. And Julie just said, nah.
No, I got up.
Had enough.
Yeah.
So
That's a disgrace.
we always go back to that, and that's the wrong thing that happened to us. The minute we walked in that door, we always say with the charity that the minute you walk in that door, that's the time you want help. And you'll stop everything for that to give you help.
And you know, when I was doing a wee bit of research for this episode, I was on a few websites looking at different statistics and different things and different charities, and one of the websites I went on, as soon as we opened the page and you click on it, the first thing that comes up was, would you like to donate? You know, and it's not like, it could be someone looking for support or you know, someone going through this, and the first question they're getting asked is, would you like to donate to this charity? Which is
I think it's the subtle small things, like you say, when you were leaving the hospital and you're in a lift there, and it's
just consideration into it.
Just this consideration. And
don't get me wrong, I mean, charities, we do need the money, but there's a time and a place. We always say, the first thing we do is get them in the door. Julie does the one-to-ones, then we get the counselling. We do it within hours.
Yes.
We can get
referrals from like hospitals, word of mouth, anywhere at all. We work with funeral directors just now, so we're working with the Co-op in Anderson Maguire, so we work with them to obviously support that kind of way. So what will happen is when they put a referral in, I'll phone that day. So if the referral comes in, I'll phone them, I'll phone the families and just say, when can you come in for a chat? It might be 2 days, 3 days later, they come in. And then we make a decision between the families and myself, right, what kind of support you need, because it's not about me, it's about them. It's about what they need at that time.
Yeah.
It might not be counselling, it could be they need 2 days away just to process it. And then we make that decision and they're booked in within a couple of days. So all in, it could take up to a week.
Do you find any of the services that, not necessarily referrers, but do you find there's any pushback against what you're doing, or has it been overwhelmingly? Because when you say 2003, it's only 20 years ago, and we kind of, when I think of 2003, I think, well, you know, we were probably doing better than what we were doing in the 80s. But when you hear stories that just 20 years ago things were still that dire, it's almost like we're constantly pushing against something. So do you find there are people who are dismissive of what you do?
I just feel like we're hitting a brick wall. I just feel like we're not actually looking at the problem, and the problem is the hospitals here. You can put any sort of plan in place, but if you don't have the facilities, that plan's not going to work. So you need to look at the issue, and the issue is the hospitals, the rooms. They don't have the rooms to, like, obviously put families into. They're leaving people in waiting rooms that have had miscarriages and bleeding. It's not right.
Yeah. So it's...
And again, it's not down to the midwives. These midwives are overrun. If they don't have the facilities to put somewhere, they're having to tell these families that they cannot put them into a room and they're bleeding there in a reception area.
It's not appropriate at all.
So wrong.
It's very wrong.
So we were talking, the Wishaw Hospital has a bereavement room, and the Queen Elizabeth has, is it two Simba rooms that you were saying? But in order to access these rooms, they're right next to a labour suite.
Yeah, so they're actually next to a labour suite, but the birthing pool is actually next door to the Simba rooms. So basically, when a family's in there that's lost a baby, they're hearing a mum giving birth in a pool. I mean, where's the logic to this?
I know.
So causing more trauma, causing more trauma, which is already there. You're putting trauma on top of another trauma.
You're talking about people listening. They're building a brand new hospital in Airdrie.
Right.
Monklands is going to be taken away. They're going to build a new one.
Okay.
And they haven't asked.
And we've asked to be.
They haven't asked anybody for their opinion on a maternity unit, and it would just be a small outhouse at the back with a corridor, so that these people can get away and they can build
discreetly
separate unit.
Separate unit. So it's not.
And we've asked to be part of that, and we've went to MPs to say, listen, this is what we need.
Yeah.
We're on the front line talking to these parents. This is what these parents need, and we're the voices for them.
Yeah.
And you need to listen.
Yeah.
But we've not had any response.
In terms of numbers, how many do we know? I don't know if you did any research on this, Joe, but in terms of stillbirths, loss of a child under 3, what are the numbers we're talking annually?
So we've got 1 in 4, they're saying, but the new stats, we've not seen anything.
1 in 4 for a stillbirth.
One in 4, yeah.
When I was looking at the stats, I could only find information for England and Wales, and the most recent was 2001. So there's nothing too recent. There's even in Scotland's or even less. So yeah, it wasn't great.
Sorry, just to butt in there. I remember I was living in a community, quite a close-knit community, and I remember there we had a number of families, and it dawned on me at that point, because before that, you're thinking, well, it's the 1 in 50, there's a stillbirth, or there's an issue with birth, or the pregnancy, maybe 1 in 50, and then, maybe it's a bit more common than that. By the time I left that community, I realized it was far more common. Complications, stillbirths, and I thought, wow, this is actually impacting many more people than most people think. And I think this is one of the statistics people like to push away. We don't want to know actually how many are. This is something we want to not talk about, keep quiet and focus on the happy, positive, everyone who's got a baby, but the people who are suffering, who really need that support, they're not getting it.
You've got people that's happened to maybe don't want to talk about it, and then maybe friends, colleagues, or whoever don't know what to say. They don't know how to approach someone and offer that hand and try and comfort them. They just kind of get on with the work at hand or any sort of distraction rather than approaching the issue.
And I don't think you'll get any stats because of COVID. We've seen an increase in COVID. I mean, you can imagine.
Yeah, well, there was a baby boom, went there, so the numbers for pregnancies went up. So the numbers for.
But I mean, the dads weren't allowed in the rooms, and then they were going in for a scan and finding there was no heartbeat. There was no funeral service. I mean, they were just getting limited people go to the funeral service. Then they were getting told to just go back home because you need to isolate. That's when we
set up the counselling system, because we didn't have the counselling system. So we only had retreats when we first started off, and then obviously COVID hit, and I wrote to Scottish Government saying, listen, we really need to keep this open because it's mental health, and they agreed as long as we put everything in process for obviously families to be safe. And then families were coming to me and saying, please help me, I don't know who to talk to, because obviously they've got family over the phone, but they really needed somebody. So I had done counselling at university, and I knew quite a lot of counsellors. So what I done is I contacted them and said, listen, we really want to set up this system. Are you willing to go ahead with this? And they said, yeah. So we set up that, and it's just always went ahead. We've always just done it now.
And during COVID, were you allowed to do any sort of face-to-face, or was it all Zoom and
Zoom on?
Yeah. Zoom on, well, for counselling, but I was allowed to do face-to-face in the office as long as it was one of us.
Yeah.
It was in it, so I just went in and done the one-to-ones, and then the same was the retreat. There was nobody there, it was only one member of staff, and that was it. So
what's your capacity? What's your numbers? Like, how many do you support at a time at the retreat? Or
in a monthly, we can get 5 to 6 people in a month.
Right. Okay.
That could vary from counselling to trauma to retreats. It just depends on what they're needing.
And I'm assuming the time frame can vary depending on the person and every other wee variable.
Yeah, again, it's like they might take the offer of the counselling first, so once they get 6 sessions, and then if they need more, the counsellor will come back to me and say they need more sessions. But when they're finished their counselling, they go to the retreat, so everybody gets offered that as long as they take on their counselling sessions. Then they're referred out to the retreat as well, so they get both, so that they can look back and see where they've came from, because we get a lot of parents that come in that are really, really distressed, and it's for them to look back to where they were then to where they are now, because it's good for them to look back at that and say, well, I've actually came through this.
Yeah. I think that's similar in our work in terms of, this is where you were, this is where you've come to. What do your retreats look like? I mean, I've seen your website. I have an idea. I know a little bit about it, but what do they look like? What do they cover?
Yeah, so they're down in Castle Douglas. We've got a adults only one that's in Fife. So that has got a hot tub. It's got 2 rooms, a cinema room and stuff like that. So it's quite nice and it's quite cosy. They've got all the AD lights around. So the other one is at 6 on a Lock, and it's a 10-bedded home.
Okay.
And it's got a restaurant on the side that they can go in and have food. So they're given £80 voucher for the 2 days that they're there. So that'll give them like their food and their dinner and their lunch and stuff like that. In the room they've got a comfort bag. You can take that away with them. That's got stuff that families put in it and that. They've got a memorial book where families have stayed and they've wrote their stories and they can read it and understand it. They're not alone and they can contact them if they wish to do so.
The reason we did that is because when we go back to 2003, shortly after everything was going, I'm not saying back to normal, but we had dealt with everything. We went on holiday and it was probably the thing that probably saved us because nobody knew us, nobody knew what happened. We could actually, I'm not saying enjoy ourselves, but there was nobody judging you.
Do you think after it happened, your friends and family were maybe tiptoeing around you or around the subject, and do you think that made it worse? Do you think that was a constant reminder that this was happening?
But again, it's constantly saying, are you okay, you okay? You just sometimes change the chat.
Yeah.
So but that's the reason we got the retreat, because it was nice and peaceful for us. It was a quiet location when it wasn't a party island or anything like that. It was so that's why the retreats have to be peaceful and tranquil and not a lot of noise. We did a survey when we first started the charity, even offering a caravan, but a lot of people said no, because caravan parks are just full of kids and so it had to be peaceful and tranquil. And we just scoured the country looking for the right ones. And they're family run businesses, they're not big hotels where you're just constantly
a little bit more intimate, a little bit quieter,
and it's cost effective as well, because I mean, if you go to a hotel, you're talking £200 a night just to sleep there. So these are family run businesses that help us.
And it's nice, it's just peaceful as well. So.
And I think a big thing, and this is one of these, whenever we've lost somebody, whoever it is at whatever age, especially though if it is a partner or a child, some people, they mean well and they think, well, eventually you'll get over it, but you never do. And I think that's part of the process, because it's about incorporating that child's life, even that short time you had, it's to memorialize and say, hey, this person did matter. They still matter to us. We are never going to get to a point 10 years from now where we've forgotten everything and moved on. That's not healthy. It's not human. How do you ever have disparity in the families that come? Is there, and I'm kind of leaning a little bit now towards, do you have people who are trying to push it under the rug, sweep it under the rug, and trying to ignore it? I'm assuming by the time they come to you guys, they've acknowledged they need to process.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, when they come to us, the both of them are grieving in different stages. So again, it's for them to recognise that, again, the men are like, oh, I'm fine, I'm looking after the partner, as long as she's okay, that's fine. But then it's for us to sit down and say, right, okay, we know you're looking after the partner, but until you look after yourself, you can't carry on looking after your partner, and there's no shame in admitting that you need that support. So we're there to be like, right, okay, and then say to the mum that the dad's grieving at a different stage, because he's going back to work doesn't mean he doesn't care. So it's about like letting them know and for them to understand that as well.
Because I would assume, from what I've heard, and this is what I want to hear from you guys as well, is that sometimes that can stress and can sometimes fracture a relationship. A couple might just be too much for them. And I'm just wondering, how is that something you look at when you're counselling people?
Yeah, we do that in the counselling, but on the retreat as well, we do. There's little exercises, and these have all been given by the counsellors. So they get as Julie says, they get a bag with stuff in it, but there's a little exercise for them to do, and it's a bit of fun, but it's for them to talk. And what it is they can ask a question. The first question is, the first time I met you, and it's a blank box, so they've both got to sit out of this chair and write something.
Yes.
Could be bad.
Could be bad. Could be bad. They were really annoying when I first met them.
But there's other scenarios about if you see your friend who you know's had a baby and they're across the road, how would you deal with it? And you will get different answers. The guy will, I'm not saying the guy all the time, but he'll say, well, I'll go up and congratulate him. But the mother struggles with it.
Yeah.
So what that does, it gets the two of them talking, because that's the biggest thing that causes the friction and the breakups, is they don't talk.
Right.
So the feedback we get from the parents after the retreat is, thank you, that's actually the first time we spoke about our loss and how we're going to deal with it. Because you do, when we had the loss, I didn't want to burden Julie with my problems, because she's gone through a hell of a lot more than I did. So you just try to keep it to yourself. I think, so let's just try to get that.
I think that's what a lot of us guys do. It's like we don't want to burden our partner with that, but we also then neglect ourselves.
Of course we do.
And how do we, because I think, how do we, is there anything you've found that a sort of a process that's different for the guys?
The process, there's not really a process, but getting the guys there, because guys they'll be like little kids. I can imagine their wives are dragging them along the road. They get in that room. We're very much of the approach of, there's a chair at the back of the room. Just sit there. If you don't want to be part of it, just sit there. See, when it comes to the next couple of weeks, he's down next to his wife.
Moved forward in
Right.
So we don't put the pressure on the guy, because we are that alpha male. We've got that instinct that I'm all right, I'm okay. We are getting round it now, but we do have that process. We've had one guy that's totally against counselling, wasn't he? See now, this guy, so supportive, so supportive.
Yeah, I think we try. I think we get into a corner, and I think we, like in our work with dads, we're always encouraging the guys. To ask for help is not weakness.
No.
And one of the big things is this experience has taken something away from you.
Yeah.
And of course, we all toughen up and are like, well, I'm not going to let it impact me or affect me.
Yeah.
Whereas deep down, we know it is. And I always say to guys, we want you to get back to that place of having a little bit more autonomy, having that power back, but not by pushing away, ignoring, or stifling what you've experienced.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that tallies with what you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
guys.
I never, in my 10 years that it took me to talk about the baby loss, I never told Julie once I was struggling.
Right.
Once we went through the counselling, now I do it every now and then. See if I've had a bad day, and I've just said, Julie, I know you're having a bad day, but I'm struggling a wee bit.
So did you keep all your emotions regarding this
For 10
locked
years.
up for 10 years, a decade?
Wow.
Again, I was the wee kid that Julie was trying to drag along to a counsel session. I was like, no,
I took
not
him to
doing it.
counselling.
I'm not doing it. And then the woman sat me down and she says, look, what we've just done today, describe what happened. I got to the scan and I burst out crying.
Yeah.
So it was a relief, my shoulders, my head, I just felt this tension.
Yeah. Did you feel the tension go?
Yeah.
Like the weight?
Yeah.
And then I just thought, wow, that's why did I do that?
Why did I wait that decade?
And I'm not just the only one that's done that. There's
of course.
Many guys do.
I think it just takes that click in it. I think it just takes something for a man to be like, right, okay, I
Yeah.
felt that, like that emotion. Because again, it's the emotion's the problem. It's how do you show that emotion? And as soon as it clicks, then they go, well, I can show this emotion now.
Yeah.
We did a Father's Day event, so we asked the fathers to come. Obviously, it's had a baby loss, to come along. We had arts and crafts, and I thought, I don't think anybody's going to like this.
Yeah.
But do you know what? The guys were up, they were doing paintings, they were putting their baby's names on it, and they came out and they went, do you know what? That's exactly what I needed. Because Father's Day is a hard time for us.
Yeah.
So, again, we're always thinking, aren't we? Just to make sure that the guys are being involved and they're being included, because it's very, very hard for us.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for the families as well to approach certain days like that, Christmas, birthdays,
It's very hard,
Father's Day. You know, a lot of partners might not even want to discuss it with the male in the relationship. They just avoid it. And
We try and encourage that. We try and encourage, again, it's about friends and family, about them including the baby in a Christmas card.
Right.
You might feel as if, I don't want to put that baby's name in.
Yeah.
Do you know what? They'll tell you, but I guarantee most of the time they'll be like, oh wow, you've put my baby's name in that. Birthdays.
Yeah.
We are now at a stage where I don't think Andy remembers Erin's birthday. We put it because we put it on the baby loss, and we put it on.
Our mums did, but because
they're now gone. Yeah, it's probably only your dad. But if we didn't put it on social media, there'd be absolutely nobody that would say happy birthday.
Yeah.
So it's a very sad.
That's something I've never actually even thought about.
But it's a lot.
I've never even.
I think I've thought about that before, because when you lose people, and you 10, 20, 30 years down the line, you think, does anyone else remember them? You know, and there's, for a couple who's lost a child, people in 20, 30 years time will say, maybe if that couple has revealed that, but often they carry that alone.
Yeah,
and like you say, when the family members start passing away, and those who were close and remember and knew, it's just, that's the strange thing about life and death. I mean, because ultimately, I mean, you think like my children, my wife's grandmother just recently passed. She was over 100, and so there were 4 generations, and my kids knew their great grandmother. But who here knew their great grandmother? And if you did you know the mother before then? No, and But in a sense, we've moved with time and history, whereas when you have the loss of a child, that memory remains, but not everyone else has that time and history, as we kind of covered a bit earlier.
We do presentations as well, and we try to go out to businesses, and the first thing we do is say, can everybody put their hand up who knows they've had a loss, knows somebody who've had a loss, a family member or a work colleague. Yeah. Guaranteed every one of them will put their hand up.
Yes.
97% maybe. Then you say, how many of you remember the birthday? How many of you include the baby's name in the Christmas card? How many of you say to the dad on Father's Day, I was thinking about you?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
every single hands goes down.
Changed my whole view on this, you know, because I would purposely leave the name out because I wouldn't want to, you know, bring up any bad feeling or emotion that I would probably feel it's not my right to remind them of.
But then it makes
them
worse because you have done it. Because it's knowledge they've gave birth or they've had a child. It's acknowledging. It's, for example, say your child was 5 and your child died at 5. Would you stop putting the card? Would you stop putting the baby's name on the card?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? It's still the same. It's again, even if you're feeling that uncomfortable, you don't know what to do. Communicate. We're a big. I always say about communication because it really annoys me. Like, I just think as a country we don't communicate. Like, we always assume what somebody wants. Yeah. But until you actually ask them what is it you would like, and that's why when they come into the office, it's not about me. It's about communicating back and saying what is it you need, and then for to take that step. So again, it's about maybe saying to you, saying to somebody, and they go, well, I really don't want that. Then you know the answer.
I think it's your human instinct. You put that barrier up, thinking, because what you think is, I don't think they'll like that. But until you kind of open up and say, do you know what, I'm going to put your baby's name in that card. Is that okay? They might say no, but I guarantee most of the time they'll say yes.
And I think a lot of it is because maybe we never had it. I don't know. I don't know that much about it, but we've seen loss of community in society. And I'm not saying 50 years ago there was a lot of community, because we know this sort of thing wouldn't be discussed. But we're now, I think, as we're sort of tracking along with also men and mental health and discussing positive mental health, poor mental health, and that's become less of a taboo, I'm hoping that this kind of thing will track with it, and we say, well, actually, guys, we need to talk about this. And not for the sake of, it's, you know, I think guys are afraid they're losing something if they talk about it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's like, I'm like, guys, I think we're gaining something, because if this thing's holding us and we can't respond, react, feel, move with it, then this thing is holding us, and we need to admit that we're stuck.
Yeah.
And by embracing it, it's not a case of it's the lesser of two evils, let's embrace it, we'll suffer through it. It's like, actually, if you embrace it, if you talk about it, this renews your strength, it renews your power, and you gain a better understanding of what men around you may be experiencing, what families are going through, and it feeds into the community that I think we should be building, where we can be open about difficult topics.
Yeah, definitely.
If someone listening has experienced baby loss in any of its forms, how did they reach out? Who did they reach out to? How did they get a hold of you guys?
They can contact our website on www.babylossretreat.org.uk, and when they go on there, the linking page will arise up on the website, so that will be the form that they fill out, and then what that does is it gives me emails to myself, and then I'll contact them.
And are you available to anyone, any age, anywhere in Scotland?
All in Scotland, yeah. Yeah,
any religion as well, because we understand there's a lot of religions that struggle with the baby loss with their communities, so we understand that as well.
Okay.
Maybe as a final question, what's your best advice for people? Obviously, maybe there's someone who at home they're listening and this is something that's been on their mind, they're really struggling with the idea, whether it be mum or dad, to actually engage. What's your best advice to people?
I would just say reach out to us. You're not alone. Obviously open up. It's a hard thing to go through. Hard experience you'll ever go through in your life. But to get that support, it'll be able for you to build on your life, build around the grief. And obviously have that support that you can talk to anybody. You're not alone.
Okay.
Do you find that there might be a case, maybe one of the people in the relationship wants to reach out and get support and the other doesn't?
Yeah.
And how would they approach that? Would you do like a one-on-one individual session, or like maybe say the father didn't want to come along, maybe he wasn't quite ready or whatever? Would you deal with the mum on her own?
Yeah, we do
vice
that.
Versa?
Yeah, we do that. So sometimes men don't come along, and then obviously the wife will come along and then talk about it, and then she'll go back and tell the partner, and then obviously he can contact us separately.
Right.
I always say that because our forms are always down to the mum and dad, so we've got questions for the dad and the mum, because I always feel like we're asking the mum constantly when we're at like obviously anything to do with baby loss, so we try and bring the dads into it as well, and obviously we support the siblings. Maybe they've experienced this baby coming in and then the baby's not, so we use listening music therapy because a lot of kids like music, so we bring that in as well, so if the siblings want support there as well, we can do that.
Fantastic.
Although we've got the website, we have got Facebook, we've got LinkedIn, we've got Instagram, we've got Twitter. So there's a message page on there, or a contact page, and what do you call it? When if you want to message us, you can message us as well. And everything's totally confidential. It's only the board and the committee, that I've got the access to that. But the biggest thing is don't suffer in silence. There's help out there. You may feel that you've had a bad experience during the pregnancy and after, but we are here to help.
We'll try our best, and if we can't help them, we would refer out so that they don't have to hunt. But on our website as well, there's a down box, and that's got other charities on it.
Okay.
So we do refer other charities as well if we can't support it. So
we'll put the link in the description for this podcast as well, along with other supports.
I think so. So thank you very much for coming in, guys. It's been really enlightening and helpful to us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate the work you're doing. I think that is something that's really important, especially to tackle something that people don't want to talk about. To those of you listening, we hope you found that this podcast has been helpful to you. Please reach out for support if you need it. Communicate with your partner, do what you need to do. Don't need to suffer in silence, as Bryan and Julie have said. So thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you.
And Joe, that's all from us.
Yeah, that's all. Thanks again.
Thanks.
And we'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye.